It's Unveiled, bitch.
This is Chrissy Shorter-Arnold, CEO of Unveiled The Chrissy Shorter-Arnold Show, streaming live on all social media platforms every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Check me out on my website, ChrissyShorterArnold.com. See you soon. Welcome to this week's episode of Unveiled The Chrissy Shorter-Arnold Show, where I have the esteemed pleasure of having Willie Simmons, my guest co-host, FAMU head football coach. I want to point you all towards my website, ChrissyShorterArnold.com. It's all things Chrissy on my website. You can connect with my social medias. You can shop my merch and my different things that I have on there. You can read my bio. You can see my EPK, which is an electronic press kit. It's all things Chrissy. So please, those of you who is patronizing the website, continue to do so. Those of you who have not, gone on and be nosy. Okay, click on this and click on that. I actually would really love your feedback as to my updated website. I'm trying to, get it to the point to where everything that has my name attached is done with the spirit of excellence. Those of you who is on right now, I want you to tag and share, because I think that this interview will greatly benefit those. I do not think that I can reach everybody. And so therefore, I have made it my business to bring in people on this show that can reach the masses. And together, that is the goal, to reach the masses. So thank you all and welcome. Let me do an introduction of my speaker, my guest co-host. This is none other than Willie Simmons, the head coach of Florida A&M Rattlers University. He's the head football coach. He was previously the head coach of Perry View A&M from 2014 to 2017. He's also served as offensive coordinator for the Akron State Braves, as well as Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders football teams. Simmons played college ball at Clemson and the Citadel as a quarterback. Simmons is married to Shea Beckwith, who is a two-time graduate of Florida A&M University, and has 6 children together. I'm going to bring my guest on now so that we can get into it. He's very busy, and so I wanted to make sure that I got him in and out. Mr. Simmons, it is my esteemed pleasure. Listen, I know you're busy. I know you're extremely busy. So I do appreciate you even making time in your schedule to grace us. I have a purpose with this interview. I think that there's some people that I'm trying to reach with one thing that that I'm doing, my mental health. Listen, it's heavy. We'll get into it. But before all of that, I want you to introduce yourself for those who may not know you. Now, I don't know nobody who don't know you because you worldwide. You understand? But can you give us an introduction and tell the people a little bit about yourself? Now, don't go too far because I got a couple questions for you.
No, first off, thank you for having me on this evening. And it's always a pleasure to be able to share, especially with those from our great county of Gadsden County, and whenever we can give back, we want to do so. So again, Willie Simmons, grew up right there in Quincy, Florida. Was there my entire life, from growing up to elementary school, middle school at Stewart Street Elementary, Carter Paramore Middle School, and then ultimately Shanks High School. Had an opportunity to play football there and was a pretty good athlete. And like you said, got a chance to play college football at Clemson University and the Citadel my last year. So football has really kind of been a driving force in my life, really since the age of 8. And through the game, I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot. I've explored, many parts of the United States as a player and as a coach. And then I got into the coaching profession, and now that gives me a chance to pour back into the lives of so many individuals every single day. And then to be able to impact the communities that we're a part of. So, whether it was at Clemson, in Tennessee, Mississippi, Texas, and now ultimately back here in the Panhandle, because we love football so much, our impact is monumental. And so I don't take this responsibility lightly. And I'm just blessed every day to be able to lead such a great group of young men at such a great institution and give back. And then, like you said, I am married. I will make one correction. Her last name is Simmons. It's no longer Bedford. So hey, I spent way too much money and here way too much for her not to go by Simmons. So she is Simmons. But no, we have 6 amazing kids. Trey, our oldest, who's down in law school. Amory, our vivacious, teenager, who's a senior in high school now at Godby. Raven, our 16-year-old, who's over at Family DRS. And then the 3 little ones, Shiloh, who's 8, who just turned 8, Raylan, who just turned 6, and then last but not least, Truth, who will be 3 here in another couple of weeks. So been extremely blessed, and again, children are a blessing. They're a handful, but we wouldn't trade them for the world.
And I have to correct that because Shell gonna get me. Shell's my friend from high school. We good friends, and I thank you for even allowing us to communicate in the manner that we do. We don't publicize and broadcast everything because everything ain't for everybody. My connection with her is my connection. And speaking of the kids, Michelle and Truth went up Stone Mountain, and Truth was not scared, but I was. I had my eyes closed as we traveled up the mountain, and she was looking like this. So she's a trooper at a early age. So Shell, don't get on me later, because doggone well I didn't mean nothing about that minor oversight. Listen, I have some questions for you, right? Okay, it is my goal and my quest to impact, like you said, the youth in our city as much as be possible. Listen, those of you who is online, make sure you share this. Make sure you share this. We're trying to reach as many as we can. And like I stated at the onset of this interview, I can only reach so far. I don't think that I can reach everybody. And so what I have to do is reach and pull those that can reach people that I can't reach. And so we have to know how to be able to network with the common goal. And so one of my questions is, as we all know, times are much different today than when we grew up. What advice can you give our youth today on how to deal with peer pressure so that they can develop into successful persons such as yourself? Because you came from Quincy. And so we cannot utilize where we're from to say that we can't. Look, everybody, the whole world knows you. You're in such a great position in such a great HSBCU. And so what advice would you give someone in our position?
Right. So, obviously peer pressure, has always been a real thing, even for us, right? I think in today's time, it just manifests itself in different ways because of social media. So growing up in Quincy, obviously a small community, and so we knew everyone, whether you went to Shanks, Greensboro, Chattahoochee, North Side, everyone kind of knew everyone. So, we had our small group of friends. So the pressure that we got from our peers was just that. It was isolated to the community. It was isolated to the school. Well, now, because of social media, you may be getting peer pressure from someone in China, right? So because now we're all connected through this fascinating thing that we call social media. And so I think the message is really the same as far as how to deal with peer pressure. A lot of it really stems down to just us having an overall foundation and understanding of who we are, right? When we know who we are, and then depending on your faith and how you choose to exercise that. But for me, is knowing whose I am, then that prevents me from allowing outside influences to, cause me to do things that maybe aren't consistent with the values and the principles that I was raised with, right? My mother, my father, my grandparents, my church community, my teachers, my coaches, all kind of laid that groundwork and that foundation as to who I am or who I was going to be. And so all those principles kind of align together, right? Be a good person, treat people with respect, give back when you have a chance. And so I knew those things. So whenever I saw someone or felt the pressure from someone to do something outside of that, I had to think back to, okay, would my mother like this, right? And my wife always reminds me of this, not reminds me, but we talk about it a lot. And she says that a lot of things that she didn't do was because she would always say, would my dad like this, right? Would my grandmother like me doing this? And so we can continue to just remember where we come from, who we are, what our purpose is in life, and I think that will keep us from falling victim to some of the peer pressure that we have to do drugs or alcohol, or do things that we know aren't necessarily in our best interest. And I think so, whether it's local peer pressure from your community or whether it's peer pressure from an outside entity that you can't physically touch because of social media, I think the core values still stay the same. Be true to who you are, know what your purpose is, and think about those that you love and that depend on you, not depend on you per se, but that look to you as a good kid, a good son, a good daughter, a good brother, a good sister, and let that govern your choices more so than the influence of those that may be similar in age, who don't really have your best thing at heart or core values at heart. So I think that's the advice that I would give any young person that's dealing with peer pressure. Know who you are.
Awesome, awesome. I knew I was going to enjoy this interview. Awesome, and that's from the coach, and your with the mantle that you operate in, you have this influence over your team, not only the athletes but your support staff as well. And so that is awesome, and that leads me into my next question. Before taking the helms of FAMU football program, they underwent 6 consecutive losing seasons. Then in 2018, along come a native from Quincy, Florida, who takes the rims and steers the program back into prominence. To what do you contribute your success?
Well, it was 7 years. It was 17 years of losing seasons, which obviously is hard for me to believe, knowing how much history FAMU has. But playing the game, especially starting at such an early age, there's so many parallels to life. And that's why we love football for what it is. It teaches us many lessons about how to live. And so I'm just a firm believer that the way you do anything is the way you do everything, right? The secret to success is the same whether you're a football player, a coach in corporate America, an attorney, a pastor, or whatever it is. I think those keys to success, those fundamental principles, if you read the books by people who are successful, you will hear those same principles over and over again. Hard work, sacrifice, commitment, right? Dedication, teamwork, right? All those principles hold true. And so for us, any program that we've had the opportunity, and I say we because I don't do this by myself, I have a great staff. Programs that we've taken over, we have our foundation. And I think everything starts with your foundation, right? My wife and I are in the process of building a house now. Well, the first thing we're going to do is lay the groundwork, the foundation that's going to sustain that house through storms, through whatever the case may be. And as long as the foundation is solid, you can endure everything. So for us, we had to set a foundation here, just like we had to do at Prairie View, because they had 7 straight losing seasons before we took over as well. And those foundations are based off 7 core principles that we live by every single day. And so as long as we can stay true to those and not deviate from them, then we'll find success. Because again, that principle has made us successful in class. It'll make us successful in life. It'll make us successful in our personal lives. And it'll make us successful as a football team. So, do those things, but not just in football, but do them in every single thing that you do. And the moment our guys really internalize that message, the success follow. And fortunately for us, that happened, sooner rather than later.
Awesome, awesome. So having said that, let me ask you this. What are your feelings on having such an impressive season on last year, and yet you were invited to FCS postseason tournament?
Well, obviously it was disappointing, because we had gone through a similar situation in 2021 where we lost 2 early games, but then we won the rest of our games. So we finished the regular season in 21 and 22 with the same record, 9-2. One of those losses was to what we call a guarantee game or bigger game, so to speak, a Division I FBS team. In 2021, it was South Florida, and last year was North Carolina, right? So one of those losses was to a team that we were big underdogs going into the game, and then the other loss was to a conference foe who went undefeated. Jackson State, both years, went undefeated in conference play. So we only lost 1 game in conference in 21. We lost 1 game in conference in 22. So we had the identical resume, but we didn't get the nod like we did in 21. So it was extremely disappointing. for our young men, right? Because we felt that we had worked hard enough and that those guys deserve the opportunity to go and show what they can do on a national stage. But like everything else, and like I told people many times since the snub, we're not going to let that define the season that we had. At the end of the day, we had a phenomenal season. Not very many programs across the country can boast 3 consecutive 9-win seasons. These guys have done that. 2 years in a row, we've had individuals be invited to all-star games, NFL Combine, which hadn't happened around here in a very long time. You know, Marquise Bell, one of our players from the 21 season, is now at the Dallas Cowboys. Isaiah Land, one of our seniors, graduating seniors from this past year's team, will have an opportunity to get his name called on draft day here in a couple of months. And so we're highlighting the things that these guys have earned and deserve more so than focusing on, you know, the thoughts and opinions of outsiders who didn't feel that our body of work was good enough to go into postseason play. So we're excited about what we've been able to accomplish, and we still think the best is yet to come.
Most definitely. Okay, so my next question is, there are a lot of good, some might say great, athletes that come from small cities and towns who have the mentality that once high school is over, that's the end of the road for them. So what advice can you give them on what they can do to promote themselves in the absence of a coach doing it for them?
Yeah, you know, obviously growing up in Gadsden County, we saw a lot of that, right? We saw a lot of great athletes. You know, I tell people all the time, some of the most talented individuals I've ever seen in my life have come from Gadsden County. Not just athletes, singers, dancers, artists. I mean, you name it, we can do it in Gadsden County. But like you said, many of us, because we grew up in a small town, because we weren't exposed to a lot, we didn't really see an opportunity outside of Gadsden County, right? And so the fear of the unknown really paralyzed a lot of great people or potentially great individuals that grew up in Gadsden County. And so if you're one of those young, talented individuals, like I said, whether it's through sport, whether it's through rapping, singing, dancing, drawing, painting, carpentry, you know, whatever it is, they have the fortune now because, like I said, of social media to see so much more, right? We didn't have those opportunities in the late 90s to be able to see so many people in real time do great things. We could hear about it sometimes, we can maybe read about it in a book, but now we're able to physically put our eyes on people that are doing these big time things that we're capable of doing as well. And so let's get out of that comfort zone. You know, we have a saying here in football where we have to become comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And so break yourself out of that comfort zone. Nothing that anyone has ever achieved in life came because it was comfortable to them. They had to take a leap of faith and step out on their own at times without knowing what the future was going to hold and bet on themselves, right? And so be willing to bet on yourself. Know that you're talented enough. Know that you have the goods. You come from one of the greatest counties, you know, in the world, Gadsden County, because the talent is there. Like I said, we've always had talented individuals. You know, sometimes we just couldn't see the forest for the trees. And so we just kind of put ourselves in a position because the opportunities will come our way, whether it's going off to college to go to school and play ball or do other things or have an opportunity to move outside of Gadsden County to another area. You know, let's be willing to take that bold leap of faith, knowing that there is a chance. And again, we may fail that first time, right? But I think it's important to know that, you know, failure isn't final, right? Just because you fail at something doesn't mean it's final. As long as you have a chance to continue to get up the next morning and try it again, continue to try. And as long as you do that and have that mindset, eventually you'll find the success. And so I just encourage anyone who's listening in to not give up, not be short-sighted, and just know that as much as we love our area, there's so much more out there in this state, in this country, in this world that's so much bigger and so much more than Gadsden County. And once we step out of that box a little bit, we'll see the world open up for us.
Most definitely, I'm living it now. I had to leave, you know, Gadsden County to facilitate some other dreams. And it seemed like everything popped off after I left Gadsden County to where I'm backwards and forth. However, Atlanta, you know, is serving its purpose. And then my ultimate goal is to be impactful in Gadsden County. And before I go to the next question, let me say this because I don't want to forget. My brother played with you when y'all was in Little League, Terrence Shorter. And I must say, when I told him that I wanted you to come on the show, he was so excited. And his, life has taken a different turn in which, some of the questions I'm asking. But I want you to know that he admired you because he played and that he shared that with me. And he was so proud that I was gonna have you on the show because he see the difference in the past. And so now when we talk about making the difference, and he encourages me to do that. So I wanted to make sure that I said that because I told him I would let you know. And he told me to tell him how the show goes afterwards. So yeah, I remember when y'all was little and we used to watch y'all, and he was Ray this and Ray this and Ray that and Ray, and we and different paths, different ones. So now we want to be impactful. And I just,
Right.
like I said, I wanted to let you know before going on to the next question.
Well, Terrence, I played with Terrence before I was shotgun. I was a little snotty nose, little 8-year-old, and they were beating up on, and they almost made me quit football. They were so hard on me. I do all the time, man. That Florida football team I played on back then was, oh my God, we had so many just big, strong guys. I've never seen so many guys. That was my first year playing football, so it was so good. Like I never thought I was going to be good enough to play with those guys because I was 8 years old, and so they were all older, middle school kids, and I was just this little kid who just ran out there for the first time, and all I did was just run the play in. I never really caught the pass. But it was just so great to be around those guys, and that's what football showed me at an early age. But like you said, our lives all took different paths. But that team always has a special place in my heart, and a lot of those guys, didn't make it to high school playing football, didn't make it out to college playing ball. A lot of them didn't even go to college. But again, that group kind of makes me remember where I come from because again, there were so many talented guys. I tell people all the time, and I'll let you, wrap it up. But myself, Dexter Jackson, Alex Jackson, Dakota Fagg, we get a lot of attention, a lot of credit for being great football players coming from Gadsden County, right? I'll tell anyone, I wasn't the best football player in Gadsden County during that time. I played with so many guys that I was in awe of in middle school, in high school, that I thought if they just had the right push, the right opportunity, that they could have done amazing things in this sport. Luckily for me, I just had a mother who stayed on my butt about going to school. I had coaches, I had, siblings, I had a extended family that really, really got behind me and really supported my vision, my dream of football. And I think that's why I was able to carry it on. But there was some great athletes, and your brother was definitely one of them. So tell Terrence I said what's up when you talk to him again, man. I'll definitely keep him in my prayers.
I certainly will. In 2019, in spite of your stellar record, you was banned from competing in the Celebration Bowl for the MEAC Championship. How did this affect you and your team going forward? Well, you still had success for years after, so I guess that made y'all play harder.
Well, so one message that I try to give the team all the time, especially the start of every year, and this message obviously, pertains to life as well. As much as we can, we want to kind of control our own destiny. We never want to be in a situation where our fate is in someone else's hands. And so in that 2019 season, we self-imposed a postseason ban because of some mishaps that occurred before we got here, right? So we didn't control our own destiny. It was decided by powers that be that no matter how well we did on the football field, we would not be able to outright claim the MEAC championship, which in turn allowed us to play in the Celebration Bowl. So even though we took care of business on the football field, we were robbed of that opportunity. So for us, it was a great learning lesson that, hey, we don't ever want to put ourselves in a situation again where our livelihood, our freedoms, our success is in someone else's hands. And so that goes back to decision making. So we always talk about making great decisions. And we have an acronym that we talk about all the time. We call it DAWG, D-A-W-G. And that's drugs, that's alcohol. For most of us, because it's a bunch of males that I coach, it's relationships with women, and it's guns, right? Those are the four things that when you look across sport at every level, high school, collegiate, and professional, if someone gets in trouble, it's more than likely one of those four issues, right? Failed a drug test, DUI, inappropriate relationship with the woman, or get caught with guns, things of that nature. So control your own destiny by making the choices that we need to make to keep ourselves in a positive position, a positive posture. And that was really what we took from that 19 season. A lot of success on the field, much like 21 and 22. But we weren't able to put that cherry on top because of some mishaps from previous regimes. But ultimately, we had to suffer the consequences of it. So we wanted to move, and moving forward, we never wanted to put ourselves in a position that somebody else was in control of our own destiny.
I like it. Now let me ask you this, because I'm learning. I'm getting a little success in my life. Some things that I've been working hard for. But let me ask you this: how has your success impacted your life, both positively and negative? Because it got two sides to it. But a lot of times we talk about the positive. Is there anything that you wish didn't come with it? So I'm gonna ask for the positive first, and then the negative, if there is any.
Well, obviously the positive, because of our perceived success, we have a much larger influence on those around us. And so, I get asked to do a lot of public speaking engagements, get asked to do a lot of podcasts and shows, things of this nature, a lot of things that we're able to do out in the community. So that's the positive, is that now we're recognizable, we have credibility, and so we're able to go out and make a difference, right? Where maybe otherwise we wouldn't. So that's the positive to having a level of success. The downside, obviously, is that we're from here, right? I grew up here in Gadsden County. My wife grew up here in Gadsden County. We're raising our kids here in Gadsden County, and it's such a small community. And even Tallahassee is such a small community that it's like we're rock stars, so to speak, right? We can't go places without someone. Everyone recognizes us for the most part, and so we don't really get to live that intimate life that we really honestly like to live. Like my wife and I are very private. We're okay being social, but we don't want to necessarily have our life in the spotlight, so to speak, right? It's in the Simmons reality show, So that's the downside of it. You have a somewhat target on your back, because people do know that you're quote unquote high profile. So things that I enjoy, hanging out. If I go to the cigar shop or go to a movie or something, like if I go by myself, I go to the movie by myself, which I do at times. It's like, oh, well, coach, that movie by himself. He and his wife must be having problems. Like it's always something that people are looking for to say why I'm by myself, or why, if I, God forbid, I do a speaking engagement and I forget to mention her first, right? So it's just all those little things like that people sometimes make assumptions on, and then just the reality of it is, because of social media, anything you post becomes a gospel. So you're a public figure, so you're subjected to things that public figures are subjected to, with some of the gossip. But that's we'll take that part that comes along with it. But we focus more on the positives, which we both have a chance to really impact the community that we grew up in. Me through sport, Share through education, and we really want to do everything we can to give the students, the young people in Gadsden County, a chance to have a successful life.
Great. Okay, and you know what? That brings me to my next question. A lot of times, the responsibility of being an athlete falls on the shoulders of the athlete, and then taking care of the family, because people start seeing visions of $1 million if you make it to NFL, and sometimes something that the athletes started out as something fun to do becomes a responsibility. So let me ask you this: what are some of the things parents can do to assist their athletes? What role do parents play? Because just because they're good in football don't mean that now it's time for them at 18 years old to bear the responsibility of taking care of their families. So we never talk about that. We never talk about that the athlete is thrusted in a position where now, because of their financial situation, now is you're taking care of me, and I no longer am operating in the position of being a parent, other than having the authority of telling you what to do with your money. So, what are some things parents can do to assist their athletes, and what roles do parents play?
Yeah, I think the number one role of any parent is to be supportive, right? Support your child, your son, your daughter, and whatever that endeavor is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could be sports, could be, again, music, whatever it is. When you see that there's a gift that may have a chance to, one day make some money. So support them so that they can keep the main thing, right? At the end of the day, we play a game. Football is a game. Games are supposed to be fun. And so as long as, again, I tell my team this, like, as a player, I wanted to feel the same way about football in college as a professional as I did playing little league football. Because back then we didn't know anything about NFL. We didn't know anything about full scholarships. We just went out and played football because we love to compete and play football. And so as long as a parent you can keep that mindset and allow your son to focus on that and not having to make it because he's got to take care of the family or because everybody expects him to make it and all these things, it puts unadded stress and pressure on these young men. And so we get so many guys that mentally are in a bad headspace because they really forgotten why they play the game, right? It's not because they love it. It's not because it's fun. It's because I got to get mom out of her situation. Or my dad put so much pressure on me to be like he was because he played college ball or he played professional football or whatever the case may be. And so that weight, that burden that they put on top of trying to be a student, on top of trying to do things the right way and stay out of the public eye for the wrong reasons, it gets too overwhelming. And so they end up having performance anxiety and they don't perform to the level that they're capable of. And so as parents, we got to be very, very careful. And we're no different. I'm preaching to the choir because my wife and I, we do it not so much with the athletic side, but with the academic side, because we were both dual enrolled students. We're both college educated, so, and our kids have a certain, acumen that allows them to do well in school. So we put that pressure on them sometimes without even thinking about it to get straight A's or to be able to read at this level by this age or to be able to spell or do math or whatever those things. And as parents, it's natural. We get frustrated sometimes when they don't, right? If I'm working with Shiloh and she can't do this math problem because she is focused on the TV or tired or whatever, I have to remind myself, don't get frustrated. She's 8, right? She's not taking a college math exam now. She's taking second grade math. And I think that's a natural response for us as parents, but we just have to continue to remind ourselves that my number one responsibility is to support my child and provide the resources that give them the best chance to be successful, whether that be camps, whether that be, seminars, whatever it is that may give them traveling with them, showing them different parts of the country if we have the ability to. And just giving them a more well-rounded experience, that's where I think we as particularly African-American parents can maybe do a little bit more, is expose our kids to more outside of that one thing of sports or whatever that gives them a more well-rounded experience, and not put so much pressure on them to be an NFL player at 16. Once we find out they can throw a ball or shoot a ball or hit a baseball, or sing at a high note, like they ain't got to be professionals now. Let's not treat them that way. Allow them to be a kid, allow them to enjoy high school, allow them to have their own inner drive and let them do it because they want to do it, not because they feel forced by us to do it. And I think if they can maintain that, then they'll have a chance to live out their goals.
Most definitely. You touched on my next question. We almost finished. The mental health aspect. I'm a suicide 6 times. I've attempted suicide 6 times, 6 individual times through various methods. And so I try to focus on mental health because a lot of times today, when people look, they don't realize that, the things that I've been through are the fight, that to stay sane and to make sure that, when I'm not well, or to make sure that I'm always well, that I utilize counseling. So my next question is mental health. I think that, especially with men, and that's another reason why I wanted to interview you. With men, I don't think you touched on it. People don't think that they have issues, or people don't think that they may need to seek counseling as well because they never asked about that. And so mental health, and without violating HIPAA, because I wouldn't ask you to violate, any confidential information. What is your stance on mental well-being as it pertains to your athletes, and not only the athletes, but the coaching staff, because the pressure is on them as well. The pressure is on perform or get fired and all of that. So, you had touched on it a little bit. So that's my question. Touching on that, and then we'll be almost finished. Just two more questions, but I had to touch on the mental health. But mental health without violating HIPAA, what is your stance on mental health being well-being as it pertains to your athletes and coaching staff?
Well, I don't think it violates HIPAA to say that I go to counseling, right? I go to counseling once a week, and my very first session when I got done, my therapist said, "Well, you're not crazy. Like you don't have depression. So you don't have any of the precursors to suggest that you need medication or you need really intense counseling. So she kind of told me in a nutshell that, well, there's quote unquote nothing wrong per se, but she didn't say don't stop coming, right? Because it's important that we continue to be able to, and sometimes it's just to have a place to just dump some things.
Yeah.
And so I think as a culture, definitely as an African American culture, we have to get out of that mindset that counseling is a bad thing, that therapy is bad, because it's like any other thing, right? We go to the gym because we want to stay in shape, right? We try to eat a certain way, our diet, because we want our bodies to be a certain way. We practice and train because we want to condition ourselves to do the things that we need to do. Well, guess what? Counseling and therapy is no different. We need to strengthen ourselves from a mental health and wellness standpoint. And so we got to break down that stigma, that myth that if my child is going to counseling, then that means something is wrong with them. No, that's not the case, right?
Right.
Now, if things have happened, so we're talking about two things. One, there are times, especially after traumatic experiences, that we definitely need to get our kids some form of counseling, because trauma is a real thing, right? Death. When we lose family members. COVID obviously affected us in a lot of ways. We lost friends, we lost family members, we lost jobs, employment. So we really lost a lot during those 2 years of the heavy COVID push. And so a lot of us have come out of that needing counseling to get ourselves back centered to a place of normalcy. So we can't be afraid to utilize the counseling. Most of us on our jobs, especially if you are a state employee, you have basically a part of your contract, a part of your employment says that you get free counseling. And I think some of them limited to a certain number of times or whatever, but we have to utilize those type of things, because sometimes, well, I don't want to go and pay somebody, a lot of money to sit on their couch for 30 minutes and talk to them. But a lot of times it's free. And so I just think we just got to get to a point where, one, we stop looking at counseling as a bad thing. Yeah. We got to stop looking at, accommodations, for the academic accommodations, as a bad thing, right? Utilize the things. It's called being resourceful. Utilize the things that we have at our disposal to get ourselves to a place where we can function and do the things we need to do. It's just assistance, right? I have young men on my team who have learning disabilities. They're some of the best students that I have. It doesn't mean that they're slow. It doesn't mean that they're, not smart. It just means they learn differently than what we consider traditional learning. Dyslexia is a real thing. It means something wrong. It just means you just see numbers a little differently than other people see them. So when they get people that can write notes for them, read tests to them, give them extended test time, it's not cheating. It's stuff that allows them a chance to be successful. And so growing up, we just came up in a society, especially there in Gadsden County, where you don't talk about the stuff that goes on in your house. Everything that happens, you keep it in house. Men don't show emotion. If you cried, if you in your feelings, you got called a girl, you got called out your name, all these type of things. So it really put us in a shell kind of as men to not express ourselves, right? And now we see the effects of that, where our age group, and you even mentioned it just a second ago, are contemplating suicide. Yes. Way more than we knew about growing up. And Black men are committing suicide. Black women are committing suicide. And for a long time, if we're being honest, every time we heard of somebody committing suicide, we just automatically thought, oh, that's a white person, right? Because we don't do that. We don't know. It's real life stuff that we're dealing with, that if we don't seek help for our children, God forbid the worst happens, right? And so let's get ourselves out of that mindset that counseling is a bad thing, that tutoring and academic support and learning disabilities and all those things are bad things, again, they're just things that we're all created differently, we're all made differently, and sometimes some of us need a little bit more to get to where we need to be. And so I just encourage anybody, if you know, if you see a sign that, and even sometimes when there's even not signs, if you know your kid, your neighbor, your friend has gone through something traumatic, car accident, you know, saw somebody get shot, got shot themselves, whatever it is, like that's not normal for you to be able to process that information without it ultimately affecting you in some other area. And so when we get ourselves in trouble, sometimes it's those feelings manifesting itself because we haven't dealt with it. So again, I'm first to say I go to counseling, not because something is quote unquote wrong, but because I see the value in it and I see it changing the way I see things sometimes, right? It helps me in my marriage. It helps me as a coach. It helps me as a friend because I'm just able to hear from a person who has nothing invested in the game. They have nothing. So it's not a friend counseling me. It's not even my pastor counseling me, who knows my family. This is a complete stranger who has nothing invested in this other than trying to help me navigate through things in life. And so sometimes we just need that third party that doesn't have a direct tie to us to be able to let us see things from a different angle. So I'm a huge proponent of counseling and therapy.
And I thank you for that because I used to be hesitant with sharing my story, but even with my platform, I have so many people that inbox me, so many people that call me before they attempt suicide, and I have to take the time out my schedule to try and help them as best. And you just helped some people, and that's why I want you all to tag and share because it's people that look like you that not going to receive from me, but it's Black men that you helped with your testimony. And so it was very important for me to have you on to disclose. I didn't know exactly like what you was going to say, but I know that helped because you don't have to be macho. You need, if you need help, you need help. And just like you said, I live by counseling. At one time I had 4 different ones because this one provided this, that one provided that, and this one provided that. And as you stated, we pay for insurance. Why not use it? Most of us. So thank you so much.
I'll say one more thing on that tip, Chrissy, and I use analogies a lot, right? Just like the Bible, Jesus used parables because it made sense to the common people. I like to use analogies. Well, today our guys in the weight room were doing squat max, right? They were maxing out on squat. So we had a guy today squat 675 pounds, okay, which is unbelievable. Yeah. Well, when he put all that weight on his back, he had to have what we call a spot. So there's a guy that stands behind him, and there are 2 guys that stand on the side of him to make sure that he doesn't drop the weight on himself. So it's called a spot. So a guy who's one of the strongest guys, probably the strongest guy on our team, still needs assistance in doing what he's doing, right? And so just because we're big, if we're perceived as big and strong and successful and all those things, that doesn't mean we don't need support and need help, right? It's just a guide. The person who will spot them, they don't lift the weight for them. They don't even touch the bar. They're just there just in case something goes wrong. And that's what a counselor is. They're there sometimes if you feel like things are fine, they're there just in case you have a bad day. They're there just in case you get some bad news or you have these feelings that you don't really know how to process. So you may feel like I'm perfectly fine. I'm not stressed. I'm not depressed. I'm not any of these things. I'm living my best life. I'm enjoying myself. You still need that spotter just in case. And that's what a therapist is. So I just wanted to give that last little nugget, before we move on.
And I appreciate it because even in our city in Gaston County, in the last year and a half, we've had multiple suicides, Black men. One of my cousins is one, and his mother's in the PSA with me that I run within my, mental health aspect. And then Ricardo Lewis was one of our great friends, from high school. And so it is a conversation that we definitely have to have in Gaston County because what we're finding is that the initial shock, and then we're partying and we're drinking our way through it, and then after it's over, nobody has dealt with it. And so it's a conversation at large, and I thank you for what you said. And last question, I want to ask, what are some of your future goals, and how can the public at large assist your plans? whether it be on the booster, or, how can we assist? I tell you one thing, I need to be a booster because they sent me the email about getting our seats, and listen, I had this cake mix on my face when we went in September to Miami because we always follow you, and it was so hot. Even though we was in club, we had to go in club and watch the game because it was too hot. So I told them next time we going in the skybox. So I always start playing that. And I need to be a booster or something called $10,000 for the skybox we in. My God, but but yes, what are some of your future goals and how can we, as the public, assist with with some of your endeavors?
Well, I'm a man of faith, and I always pray. My wife and I pray that our steps are ordered. And so, I have career goals as far as what I would like to do within football. But really, mine is just, continue to have the platform to be the influence that I've been called to be, wherever that is, right? If that's here at FAMU for the next 30 years, if that's one day, ascending to a quote unquote high level of major college football, NFL, or whatever that is, I'm going to be led by the Spirit to do what He's called me to do. So, but my biggest thing is just wherever I am, be where my feet are, bloom where I'm planted, and just continue to make a difference. And so, that's kind of my mindset. Every year there are conversations about me potentially moving on and taking another job and all those things because my name does show up on various lists for up and coming coaches. But I love it here at FAMU. I love the opportunity that I get to work with these great guys, these coaches that I'm around. I love being able to serve this community because it is home for me. And so that's what my focus is right now. But as far as supporting us, you talked about it. I think season tickets is huge. It's monumental. We have to build a budget every year, right? And to not get too long-winded into this because I know it's in the focus of our conversation. But what I think a lot of people don't know is that in the state of Florida, the Board of Governors has decided that universities can only do so much when it comes to supporting athletics. And that support can't be financial. So if my AC unit goes out in the field house in my office, the university can't fix our AC. We have to pay our physical plant or an outside entity to fix it through the athletic budget because that will be considered the school doing stuff for athletics, and we're not able to do that. So some of the issues that we faced in the past is because the school has tried to bail us out. And so athletics is solely self-sustaining. We can only spend what we can raise. And so we have to build a budget every year to anticipate what we're going to be able to spend. Well, season tickets is a way to project what that budget will look like. Because if we can go and see that we got 5,000, 10,000 season tickets sold this year, we can anticipate what our revenue is going to be for each home game, right? And so buying season tickets is so important. Becoming a member, becoming an Investing in Champions member is so critical. Investing in the Rattler Athletic Fund, right? So these are all engines that directly support student athletes. My wife and I have started an initiative called the 1978 Circle, right? Around, of course, 1978 was the year FAMU won the FCS and 1AA National Championship. So we're asking individuals to commit to giving as little as $19.78 a month towards summer school because it's critical that our student athletes our football players get to attend summer school. And so joining the 1978 Circle, you can obviously give that amount, or if you're feeling magnanimous, you can give more than that. But financial support is needed, and I hate asking for money. I'm just not that person that just goes out and solicits money. But we cannot run a successful athletic program without funding, right? We have to provide equipment. We have to travel well. We have to eat properly. I have to be able to hire and retain quality coaches because of the competitive nature of college athletics. So if we have a great season, which we've had, guess what? People want to start pulling coaches off my staff. Well, if I don't have the money to be competitive and pay those coaches what other schools can offer, excuse me, then I run the risk of losing them. And so all those things are important when it comes to sustaining success at this level. So buy your season tickets, become the Best of Champions member, join the Rattler Athletic Fund, and financially support these guys.
Oh God, this has been one for the books. Thank you so much for giving me this little time because your voice is a big voice, and what you had to say about these issues is very impactful. And we take it not lightly that you took time out your schedule so that our viewing audience can hear you, and it's gonna continue to go up and abroad. This also, I have a channel on Lit Television Network. So on next week, this will play to everybody who's watching on Roku, on Apple, Android TV. And so this is good. This is good. And so listen, you all, let's assist the FAMU athletics department as the head coach has given us some jewels and help us with what we need help with. Let's help them with what they need help with. And I'll make a donation. I'm not going to tell nobody my business how much, but I will.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Will. I believe that what you make happen in the lives of someone else, God will make happen in yours. And I'm a walking manifestation of that, of all the prayers and all of the seeds that were sown when I was going through and when I was struggling. I'm walking in it and I'm living in it now. So I don't take the prayers of the saints lightly at all. And like I said, I do not take it lightly that you graced us today. So thank you so much. I really, 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 really appreciate you. And I would let my brother know you say he was one of the good athletes. Listen, he's going to smile. He's going to be really, really happy about that because he really, really admires you. So thank you again.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Now, I'm going to see if Shea Beckwith has cooked me some dinner when I get home.
You know what? You see, I knew you were going you trying to get me in trouble with my friend. Don't do that. I don't went on Wikipedia, and I should have knew to edit that because that's what they got. And I don't... But I want no problem. It's Miss Simmons. So thank you. And I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
Y'all, that was great. That was a great interview. And Shea, I see you on here. Girl, don't come for me. I made a mistake and called your premarital name. And I knew he was gonna get me. And I knew he was gonna come tell you what I said. So it was a mistake, boo. Listen, let's run this mental health PSA.
My son, Montoya Francis, committed suicide March 2nd, 2021. Please reach out for help.
Suicide affects everyone, family, friends, and veterans. Please get help.
As someone who once attempted suicide, I know there's help available.
Suicide is preventable. Please get help.
Please call Big Ben 211. Oh God, listen, I am overjoyed with that. Listen, if you or anyone, as we stated, Gaston County has been taking a lot of hits, and our people should be in a position where they can talk about their issues. If you or anyone is suffering from mental health issues, if they tell you something, listen, thoughts of suicide or thoughts of hurting someone else, take it seriously. Please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8225 or call 911 immediately. We want to make sure that we do not underestimate somebody and then we're standing before their casket. You understand? Take it seriously because it is. Because I'm going to tell you from a prior experience, when someone is in that mindset, they are struggling. And if it's ruining their mind, so if it ever comes out their mouth, talking about those type issues, then they really are crying out for help. And we want to get that. I would rather someone is mad with me because I tried to get help for them more so than having to live with the regrets of knowing I did not do enough. They have people if you're not equipped to be able to deal with it, or you're too close to the situation, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and we always put that on the screen, on the screen, and those within the LGBTQI community. As a member of that community, I know how stressful things can be. I know how judgmental people are. I know how they use the Bible. I know how they do all of that. That was an issue with me. That's why I was in the mindset. It wasn't that I was unhappy with myself. It was how can God create me to just live a life where I'm unhappy? and he didn't. But people interpretation, because they don't even have enough education, number one, to even read a Bible and to research it, that's what they do. And we fight each other with the very things that's supposed to bring unity. So I always point towards these resources because they are a wealth of knowledge. WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, is WPATH.org. And all that get understanding. You want to know all into what's going on, don't look in the Bible. Look in this, with people that have researched it, for that issue. You can have your beliefs, but that system of beliefs is totally separate than somebody's purpose in their life and the endocrine society. Y'all look up this information since you have so much to say, okay? And every week we put that information up there. Before we end on today, I just want to talk about Black Excellence. On next week, we're going to have as a guest co-host, we're going to have Charles McMillan of Milton Tax Services. Let me tell you why. It's tax time. And those of us who has to pay taxes are not running to the tax man, baby. We're going to wait all the way to April. We're going to wait to the last minute to file. And so I, as a realtor, am having a lot of issues with trying to guide my self-employed people. Because self-employed people, y'all want to make all the money. And then tax time comes, you want to go to the tax people and say, make sure I don't have to pay any money. And so, hey, the tax people are doing just what you say. And then you'll come to me and then you'll say you want to buy a house. And then when the bank gets your taxes, they say this person cannot buy a house. I don't care if you have a 900 credit score. You will not buy a house if your tax returns looks like you didn't make any money. And so with all of those deductions, guess what? You look like a hobby. You're certainly not a job. You look like somebody just twiddling their thumbs because you cannot go and tell the bank, I just told my tax person to make my taxes where I didn't make any money. You can't admit to fraud because that's what that is. You understand? That's tax fraud. So at the end of the day, if we can train you right or teach you right, let me not say train because some of y'all are so sensitive because you're an adult. You understand that you'll take something out of context. So if we can teach you how to be an employee of a business that you own and pay yourself through payroll, then you can use the payroll that you pay yourself to get your houses, to get your cars, to buy your land. See, there's a way to do things. There's a way. And then you can be a paid employee of your business. And then if the write-offs fit and it looks like the business did not make money, then they just fit. Oh, well. However, there's a right and a wrong way to do things. And so it's very important for me to have him on the show. And listen, I'm going to be honest with you all. P do not want to be out front. He is not that type of person. He is only coming to the show because it's me. He called me sis and I call him brother. He is only coming to give y'all that information. Now, he don't mind giving you the information. He just don't like being out forefront on these type of platforms. So on next week, you do want to tune in. I made it my business to bring people that will be very impactful for this season from our city, from our town. When I first came, my season one, I was focused on getting the celebrities in the podcast to, so to speak, but validate me. However, as you get into it, your mindset starts to shift because I'm around these people. They don't validate me. I validate me. So at the end of the day, what validates me is the message that I'm putting out. And so if the goal is to help the community at large, then why not help my hometown? Why not pull, from the tree that I'm growing from? So that is my goal. And we do have these people within our own community. And so a lot of times we don't have to look further. Look in your community. Stop hating on the one that is within your community and seek within your community the dollars that you need to be impactful and to manifest your dreams and goals from right where you are. You understand me? We got to grow where we are planted. And God put us in Gaston County for a reason. And we can grow out of Gaston County. We can go out into the war and bring the spores back to your hometown so that your daddy, your mother, your sister, your brother, your cousins, everybody in your family can eat. Okay? All right. So that is the goal next week. I thank you all so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Unveiled The Chrissy Shorter-Arnold show. This was an awesome, amazing show. This show will play on my channel, Unveiled TV, on the Lit Television Network. Lit stands for Leveraging Information Together. Go and download it. Y'all pay for all of these other apps. You pay for Sling. You pay for Stars. You pay for all of these apps. Well, guess what? This is a Black-owned app that is free. You do not have to pay for a Lit Television Network. It is free. We're bringing this information to you free. And so my channel plays 24/7. You can go watch it now. So this show on Tuesday will play again on Lit. It'll stay on Facebook. You can always go back and watch it. Please tag and share. But it will also play on Lit Television Network on next week, Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And that's how the shows will be. This week's show will play next Tuesday in anticipation for the show next Wednesday. So that's how we have it structured. So thank you all for tuning in. Share this before you log off, because listen, Coach Simmons was very powerful in his in the way that he shared, even the things that he went through, even in the way that he answered the questions. And I'm grateful that he graced our presence today. We need to let our Black men see this. If it was some foolishness, we'll tag and we'll share and we'll bombard their minds with foolishness and mess. So what I'm asking you to do is to bombard the mind of your Black men, of your Black sons, of your Black uncles, of your Black daddies with this positive, impactful information. Okay? Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you all on next week. This has been this week's episode of Unveiled The Chrissy Shorter-Arnold Show.